Hi, I'm Larry Maggot, and I'm the CEO of Connect Safely, which is the official U.S. host of Safer Internet Day. And I'm speaking today with Trisha Prabhu, who is an entrepreneur, a creator, and I would almost say humanitarian. I don't know if that's exactly the right word, but she's the founder and creator of ReThink, which is an app that helps to reduce online hate and cruelty and promote decency and compassion and other positive values. So, Trisha, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm sure I didn't do nearly as good a job of describing ReThink as you can. So tell us a little bit about what the app and your organization does.
Yeah, absolutely. So ReThink and our mission is to help cultivate the next generation of responsible digital citizens. So we believe that we can only build a better internet if the folks that are on the internet are very intentional about how they're communicating with one another, and that is something that needs to be taught, that needs to be practiced, that needs to be learned. And so the way that we're helping facilitate that learning is through the ReThink app, which is a revolutionary patented technology that works across all of the apps on a user's phone to detect offensive content before it's posted, and then to give that user a chance to pause, review, and rethink sending an offensive message. So, if a young person is about to say something, let's just say it's, "You are so ugly." As they're typing, the Rethink keyboard, which you can download onto your phone, is checking, is this offensive? Is this offensive? And then once it determines, okay, a message is offensive, it then prompts that young person, whoa, hold on. Are you sure you want to post this? And our research, which has been acclaimed by Google, MIT, the University of Illinois, among other institutions, finds that over 93% of the time, young people that get a chance to rethink change their mind and decide not to post these offensive messages. So for us, it's an amazing way to curb cyberbullying in its tracks proactively before the damage is done. And it's an opportunity to really help educate and teach young people, whoa, when you're online, it's easy to, kind of let your character get away from you, to say something that you might not mean. Take that second to pause, review, and reconsider, and we can help build a better internet.
And just to be clear, this is advisory. It's not preventing you from sending that
Yes.
text or comment. It's just simply suggesting that maybe you should
Exactly.
rethink it.
It's a nudge. It's as simple as a nudge. It's a very simple concept. It's just a nudge. You can go ahead and send it if you'd like. The idea is, if folks just have a chance to pause, review, and think about what they're doing, that extra moment, they often make the right decision, and we can actually stop the cyberbullying before it happens, as opposed to then having to, put the burden on the victim afterwards to handle the issue.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you're either a sophomore or a junior at Harvard. Is that correct? Did I get the year right? I know I got the university right.
I'm a junior at Harvard. Yeah.
Junior at Harvard. But you've been doing this. I actually met you when you were very much a teenager. I think you're just past your teens right now, but I think
Yes.
you were about 13 or 14 when you started this project.
Yes. I was 13 when I first got involved with the issue and decided to start Rethink. It all stemmed rather from my experiences, using technology, being born into a world where technology was the standard, and not really questioning the technology that was around me. That this was just normal. This was just how life was. And then, growing up in a town that was very homogenous, I'd always been, unpopular, kind of, sidelined by, a lot of my peers in the classroom. And then when we all got phones, a lot of that then translated to mean messages or mean comments.
Mhm.
And for me, it was really devastating because when you're 13 or 14 years old, that is kind of, the world that is often just a reflection of what other people think of you. And so to me, it was devastating. And then to realize later on, months and months later, that this was an issue that was affecting so many of my friends and peers, folks that, many of folks that I didn't know and didn't have access to the same resources or support that I did. And the consequences were quite literally sometimes deadly. And so at 13, I realized, I have a choice. I can be an upstander. I can use my experiences as a member of Gen Z, as someone who knows technology really well, to try and innovate around this issue, or I can be a bystander, and I decided to be an upstander.
I wasn't planning on asking you this, but since you raised the issue of growing up in a homogenous community, I'm guessing you're of Indian descent. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my assumption. Is that part of what has kind of colored your perception, the fact that the people of color being especially victimized by various forms of cyberbullying?
Yes, and research finds that people of color, as well as members of marginalized groups such as the LGBTQ community, are disproportionately cyberbullied online. And so, to know that those folks who are already, often pushed to the fringes of society, who already face, inequitable burden, then have this additional layer of hate and harassment coming their way was something that really resonated with me, touched me, and pushed me to take action.
And I wonder, again, getting back to the concept of rethink, a lot of some call them microaggressions. There are various terms for it, but a lot of the things that we say online, we may not have in our heart any malice,
Yeah.
but we may nevertheless, for whatever reason, say something that could be offensive and not even be aware of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes we say something and we don't actually realize that what we're about to say is offensive. And I think that's part of the beauty of Rethink, right? Is it's there to help you realize when you don't. And I think it also as a solution is not a punitive one, right? I think sometimes our immediate response to bullying or cyberbullying is to be punitive when in reality, research finds a lot of bullies and cyberbullies are just former victims or people who are trying to take out their anger, their problems in life on other people. In fact, we try and kind of stop that in its tracks by offering that person in some ways a higher standard to aspire to say, hey, we know you're better than this. So just take a second and think about whether or not this is what you want to say, or hey, are you sure that this is how you want to portray yourself? Because you may not think that it's offensive, but someone else might find it that way. And so again, just promoting that understanding, that empathy, and bringing that to the table when trying to address this issue can be really, really transformative. We found.
Now, like all forms of language, hate speech evolves. What might not have been considered hateful 5 years from now could be today in some kind of context. Are you constantly refining your algorithms to try to make sure you're on top of what could be offensive now?
Absolutely. And I think that is part of the complexity of the work we do. It is, in fact, kind of the most difficult task that we have before us is thinking about, how language evolves, how communication evolves, how what's offensive evolves, and really bringing that into the work that we do. That's certainly in terms of the actual content of language, like slang, but it's also in terms of the way that we communicate. A lot of folks, especially young people today, don't communicate in words. They communicate through images or through videos, especially on image-based social media platforms. And so part of when we look to the future, what we're trying to do is, develop a technology solution that's able to, detect and address visual online hate and give young people a chance to rethink that. So that's always part of, the work that we're doing.
When I was in college, we had the Vietnam War and the racial justice movement, civil rights, whatever you want to refer to it as. You're in college now and you have COVID-19 and
Yes.
what we just went through in this election, the Black Lives Matter movement, what happened over the summer.
Yes.
I know you created the app long before the current situation, but how does that sort of instruct you as you move forward during these times?
I think for me, everything that we've been through in the past year in 2020 and certainly, even in this past month, to me it's instructional in two ways. One, it's shown me the need for people to step up and advocate when they see problems in their community. COVID 19 really exacerbated a number of disparities that had already existed, including lack of internet access, disparities in education, disparities in policing, and a number of other issues. And it really was young people, people of color, people who had directly lived experience with these issues, stepping up and deciding to become advocates, deciding that they were passionate about creating change. That really pushed us through the year. That I think started conversations that we needed to have maybe 5, 10 years ago. So to me, that's very instructional because it's a reminder that it is now more important than ever. I think that those folks who are impacted by these issues, like young people, like people of color, are the ones that are leading these movements. So I think that is the first thing that I took away, and I think the second thing is just the importance, I think, of realizing, just how interconnected we are and dependent we are when it comes to technology. Technology is not going away. I think that is something that was really solidified, in 2020 and 2021, and it has the potential to do both good and bad, right? I mean, we saw the Black Lives Matter movement, which has empowered so many people of color across the U.S. and brought a really important rallying message to communities across the US, it was really born on social media and it's done so much good. But we've also seen, a huge uptick in hate crime and hate speech online. And so, the duality of technology and our dependence on it, I think, has really come out in 2020 and 2021 for me. And so that has just been additional fuel to my fire to build a better internet, because we can do amazing things with the internet. It just needs to be a place that's inclusive, that's safe, and that respects everyone.
Before we run out of time, I want to solicit some advice for you, and I want you to think of two audiences:
Okay.
teens, younger than you, teens, and their parents, who
Yeah.
obviously we know from data have a lot of influence over teens. So talk a little bit about advice you would give for teens on how they can use the internet productively and safely, and advice you could give to parents not only to help their child or teen use the internet productively and safely, but also for them to feel comfortable, them as parents to feel comfortable that the kids are all right or going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with parents. And I think the advice that I'd have for parents is have a conversation with your child about technology. Make sure you're actively talking to your child about technology. I think a lot of parents today, digital parenting is so confusing, so complex. It can sometimes feel out of your hands, and there's also just this concern, maybe even a lack of trust. You're worried about what your kid's going to be doing, on their device or on social media, and I think a great way to build trust, to build a channel for communication, and to ensure that you have a window into how your child is using technology, is to start conversations with them about technology, their tech use, social media, and make it clear that you're there to kind of support them as they use technology. I think a lot of young people only see their parents as kind of a tech police, but it's really helpful to feel like you can also just go to your parents to talk about something that you saw on social media, right? Whether it's something that disturbed you or something that you were happy about. And so just creating that open channel for communication, I think, can be a really effective way to help your child through their experiences with the internet, and to also then feel comfortable and to have kind of a channel for communication with your child. And for young people, I think, in their use of the internet, I would just say, remember that the person that you are online is really just a digital version of who you are in person. I think it's very easy to feel disconnected from your digital self, but in reality, it's just another shadow of who you are. So in everything you do or say online, make sure that you're representing the best version of yourself, for yourself, and in your future aspirations, because the internet really is a permanent record, but also because that is who you are. And you should always aspire to be your best. So don't let the internet take the very best of who you are away from you.
So if people want to get your app, first of all, tell us if it's free, if there's a charge, and second of all, how they get it and how they learn more about what you're doing.
Absolutely. So we believe that the right to be safe online is a human right, and so the ReThink app is free, available on both the Google Play Store and the App Store. You can download it, learn more about it at our website, rethinkwords.com, or on any of our social media pages at ReThinkWords. We'd love to hear about your experiences with ReThink, and really hope that you give it a try.
Trisha Prabhu, the creator of ReThink, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad I was able to join.